Here we have a triangle that is not a right angle triangle. Anytime you have a triangle like this that's not right angle, you could draw the height of the triangle straight down and turn it into two triangles that are both right angle triangles. Use triangle ADC to write an expression for H in terms of B and a trig ratio angle A. Okay? So this is grade 10. You've got a right angle triangle. If you were going to use angle A, you wanted to write something with H and use side B, would you use sine, cos, or tan? Angle A, side H, and side B. You would use sine because H is the opposite side and B is the hypotenuse. So starting out, you could say that sine of angle A is equal to H over B. Agreed? And if you wanted to get H by itself, you would multiply both sides by B, and then you would get H is equal to B sine A. In the second bullet, it says use the other triangle, so switch colors here, and get angle B, here's angle B, in terms of H and side A. Sine, cos, or tan, what would you use? Sine again. So you would have sine of B is equal to H over A. And if you get H by itself by multiplying both sides by A, you get A sine B equals H. If A sine B equals H and B sine A equals H, okay, this is one equation and this is another equation, I can say that B sine A is equal to A sine B. And this is the sine law. What we just created here, and what often happens in the sine law, is they divide it even further. If I divide both sides by A, can you see that this side would be sine A and there would be an A on the bottom? And if I divided both sides by B, there would be a B on the bottom. Sine of A over A is equal to sine of B over B. And we just created an equation for a triangle, and we took H out of the triangle now. So what does that mean? If I drew this triangle and I said this side was 40 degrees, this side was 70 degrees, this side was 8, you could now find out how long this side would be. If you chose this angle to be A and this, how would you find that side using the math we've learned so far? You can't use SOHCAHTOA because it's not a 90-degree triangle. As soon as it's not a 90-degree triangle, you're not allowed to use SOHCAHTOA. You could cut it in half and add another line, but that would be doing more work. With the new rule that we found right here, all you would need to do is say that sine of 40 degrees over x is equal to sine of 70 degrees over b, and b is equal to 8. And then you use algebra to rearrange that to get x by itself. And you'd be able to solve it. Those are the types of questions that we're going to be doing. In fact, extending the sine law, you not only could do sine A over A, sine B over B, we have another side. It's also going to equal sine C over C. So at the bottom of the next page, you can highlight this box as the sine law. And we wrote it as sine A over A. And it doesn't matter if you write it as sine A over A equals sine B over B, or you flip it and write A over sine A equals B over sine B. When are we going to use the sine law? Okay, right now, obviously. You're going to use the sine law when you know an angle and its opposite side. And when you have a triangle that's not a right-angled triangle. Some other review of definitions that we should have before we do example 1. Do you remember what an angle of elevation is? Angle of elevation is if you go from the horizontal line looking up. This would be an angle of elevation. Okay? It's the angle between the horizontal line and I'm going to call the other one, if you were looking, if this is your eyeball right here, pretty, and the line of sight. It's supposed to be an eyeball. The angle between a horizontal line and the line of sight looking up is your angle of elevation. The other definition? Angle of depression. The angle between the horizontal line and the line of sight looking down. So those are some review definitions from grade 10. The key thing here is we have our sine law. And the sine law is always written as a relationship with all three sides, but when solving it, you're only going to have one equation. So you're either going to pick side A and side B, or side A and side C, or whatever letters are there, you're going to choose two of them. And you can use it when you know an angle and its opposite side. Here we have a triangle. If we look at all the angles, 51 degrees and 44 degrees already adds up to 99 degrees. That means that this last angle, if you wanted to figure out, is 81 degrees. Okay? This is not a right-angled triangle. If the first thing you do on this triangle is SOHCAHTOA, on a quiz or a test, that means you're going to get 0, because you're not allowed to use SOHCAHTOA on a triangle that's not 90 degrees. So the only thing we're allowed to use are our new laws for solving triangles. We're going to learn two of them. We're learning the sine law today. We're going to learn the cosine law later. So we have to determine, can we use the sine law? The key that can determine if you can use the sine law is if you know an angle and its opposite side. Does that happen in this situation? Yes. We know 51 degrees and the opposite side is 7.8. We want to find little letter j. G to h is little letter j. So whatever you're trying to solve for with the sine law, you put that first over sine of the opposite side. And you use the ones that you know. We know 7.8, and its opposite one is sine of 51 degrees. With the sine law, angles always go together with their opposite sides. How would you get j by itself?
Multiply by sine 44.
You multiply by sine 44. That would get multiplied in your numerators. That still be all divided by sine of 51 degrees. You would go to your calculator. I think you guys are going to like the sine law. I think so. You go to your calculator and you type that in. 7.8 sine of 44 divided by sine of 51. Is that right? 7.8 sine of 44 divided by sine of 51. Push enter, and you're done. J equals 6.97. See, there are people that are liking this already. Since everything was in centimeters, it says to the nearest tenth of a centimeter, so that would round to 7.0 centimeters. Done. That's it.
Do you need the splitter or anything? Oh.
You don't have to, like, if you wanted to use SOHCAHTOA, you'd have to draw an extra line and solve 3 things. With the sine law, boom, done. There's our answer. Circle it. Okay? Question number 3 for practice, but we'll do example 2 right away.